Hi everyone, we're in the last lesson in Unit 1, Lesson 5. You have the following book, you can follow along with us. So the standard discussed is Standard USI-2D. If you need to read it, feel free to pause the video and read it. But most importantly, the essential question we're going to try to answer in this video is why are geographic features important in United States history? Why do we care about them? So I'm going to start with why are geographic features important in general. And when I ask you to think about two scenarios. You have never been to Potomac Mills before. You go with your family, and your family has a Christmas list a mile long. How do you know where to find everything? Now, you are new to an area. How do you know where to go to meet your needs? Food, shelter, clothing. Well, guess what? You use geography. And the point I'm trying to make here is that these settlers came to the United States with no clue where things are. It's like you being lost in the mall, having no clue where things are. They had to find from scratch where the best farming was, where the best trees were for making houses, where the best metal places were from scratch. They didn't know where to produce the stuff, to mine the stuff. And so they had to, as they explored and discovered new areas, map where these things were. Hence the birth of geography. So one of the reasons why geography is important to our history is that they are the main locations of where cities and towns are located. And if you remember, we talked about how when there's safe water and a lot of easy passage for ships and other things, there's usually a port or city. That's one example of where a natural resource is playing an effect as to our history and geographic features. But it also, natural resources are things in nature that people naturally want and naturally helps to meet their needs, like water, uh, trees, abundant animal life. But these natural resources also shape the kinds of societies that were built, the quality of them. So, if you had lots of open land, perfect for farming, you often had farming areas because these areas of land were where it was ideal to farm, and you need a lot of land to farm. So natural resources, trees, water. Again, so there are two types of cities and towns. You can think of rural, which is country areas, i.e., where it's flat and you're producing a lot of crop and the natural resources, so abundant water and plant life for producing crops. But then there's also urban areas or cities. And what we'll find is that as you get on to next year in seventh grade, the cities, they would grow much, much, much bigger as you go throughout the year. And cities are often found near transportation routes. So another feature of geography that has been important in our history is geography has shaped how we've moved west as the United States. And so from 1700s to 1800s, settlers moved to the frontier. And the frontier means always the land beyond where we are initially settled. So if we came to America and we were only settled in Woodbridge, and we only decided to build towns in Woodbridge, and there was no other towns anywhere else that we knew about, well, the frontier would be everywhere else. It'd be DC, it'd be Fairfax, it'd be Fauquier, it'd be everywhere else. As always, there are barriers with land movement and geographic features that make land movement easier. So the main effect that geography has had on Western movement is in shaping the routes that people have taken to go west, but also shaping how easy or hard it is. So think about it this way. First, think about the question. What types of land features make it easier or harder to move? Now you have the answer. Mountains. They make it much harder. Water often makes it easier, unless it's this choppy and this wavy. You would think that if you had a lot of mountains, it'd be harder to move west. Better water that's much more calm, like this one with a hippo, is a lot easier. So geography has also shaped industry. Not only has it shaped how easy or hard it is for us to be transported places, but it has shaped what we produce. And again, this is what I was getting back before, where the natural resources of an area sort of dictate what businesses and industry arise up in that area. If you find the resources readily available and close to you that you need to make steel, you're more likely to make steel than someone who has to transport those goods 500 miles away. And this is just because it's cheaper. People like making more money, and they like to do it in whatever way they can. And this refers to land use, how we use our land productively. So in our past history, what we'll find is that geography shaped uh, our history by producing mostly farming. And mostly farming in the sense that, we couldn't produce many crops in our history. So we could sort of just feed us. We couldn't produce an abundance of crops. And we'll find that only when you're able to produce an abundance of crops can you have the workers freed up to work in factories, to work in steel mills, to make some of the skyscrapers that we have today. And this is a map of the different regions again. And an example of how geography is shaping industry. There's water there, so fishing is going on. There's water there. A massive shipping of goods and services is going on. Other land uses. You would think that if you're close to trees, you're going to have more forests. And more forests are on that area of the coastal plain in the map that we just saw, and in the mountain areas. Mining is always in the mountain area usually, and manufacturing is always near cities. And that's just because manufacturing typically requires people, a lot of people, to be grouped together in a small space in order to function as it should. And that condition, that category, can only be satisfied in a city. So this is a map of the country's resources. And what you'll see is those black coal things that you see are located in some of the main mountain ranges. Also zinc and some of the other sort of hard metals you can see in the Appalachian Mountains on the right side here, which is located sort of Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, Atlanta, Charlotte, just a little bit west of Atlanta, Charlotte, a little east of Pittsburgh, Cincinnati. But all along that eastern corridor right there is where you get like minerals and things from the mountain, things you would mine. And you see that all in the Rocky Mountains there next to Denver and Phoenix. You see the same idea. And there are those two mountain ranges. So, geography has also influenced our trade patterns. And basically, just think of it this way: certain geography makes it more likely that people and goods would come together. The easier it is to travel on something, the more likely people will go to do it because they don't have to blow a hole through a mountain. And so, in this case, trade networks allow you to get stuff from faraway places because you're trading only with the city next to you, and crossroads are places where that connects people, goods, and ideas. And just think of it this way, and sometimes geography does not facilitate us going long distances. So what trade networks are is that they counteract that difficulty of geography by making it so that we only have to trade with the city next to us. And then that city only has to trade with the city next to it. And so because there's so many cities in the middle of this, we're able to sort of take goods from a faraway location and bring it to us. Because what ends up happening is a trader from, Washington, D.C. doesn't have to go all the way to California. It goes to, I don't know, New York, and then a trader from New York goes to Chicago, and then a trader from Chicago goes to Seattle or something like that. And they just sort of bring the good step by step by step from one place to another, stopping in the cities involved and trading that good for other goods. It kind of sort of just goes slowly to the final resting point. So now we're back at the essential question: why is geography important, and why is geography important to our nation's history? By watching this video, you should be able to answer this.